Good evening, everyone. We have a small but mighty crowd tonight. I'm so glad you are all here, and I feel really privileged to be with you. Thank you for coming. My name is Janine LeCure. I own my own company, LeCure Communications, and I'll be the moderator tonight. As long as you are here to talk about proposed renovations to the Talking Stick Resort Arena, you are in the right place. If you're here for any other reason, see one of the city staff and they'll get you in the right place. I'm delighted to introduce some key staff and folks who are with us tonight. Our mayor, Thelda Williams, is over here to my right. Greetings, Mayor. So glad you're here. And a moment ago, I saw Councilwoman Deborah Stark here. There she is. Yes, she moved on me. Thank you. Thank you for being here, Councilwoman. We've got a lot of city staff here tonight. Those are the people that are wearing the badges. If you have any questions about what's going on this evening, they are the perfect people to talk to, so watch for them and ask. We are also very fortunate to have the executive team from the city manager's office, members of, and council offices also with us tonight, as well as executive leadership from the Phoenix Suns. So thanks to all of those folks for making time and fighting traffic to be with us. For those who need help with Spanish translations, we have an official translator here with us. Gloria San Miguel is over to my left. We also have headsets which are also located to my left over here. If you wish that kind of assistance, please don't hesitate to ask, and again, city staff will be happy to help you. We also have a court reporter with us tonight. Kim Panic is over with us. I'll say more about her in just a moment. The city's cable TV station is here tonight, Phoenix TV, and we are recording every bit of every one of these meetings so that there is more than one official record of what transpires here. These are going to be broadcast on Phoenix TV and on the city's YouTube channel as well. Kim Yannick, I mentioned, is our court reporter. You will have time to comment later in this meeting, but if at any point you feel strongly that you would like comments recorded verbatim for the record, that's what Kim is here to help you with. We're not transcribing the entire meeting. That's why we've got it on Phoenix TV as well as we're using other resources. But particularly, for those people who are concerned that their comments be rendered into the record precisely, you may see Kim and she will help you out. The purpose of this meeting, as I mentioned earlier, is to provide public information on the proposed renovation of the city-owned arena. The Phoenix City Council, a number of weeks ago, requested public input on the proposal, and that's truly why we're here. We want to hear what you think about this project and how you'd like to see it proceed. Today, our goal is to provide background and facts and give you, the members of the public, the opportunity to share comments and to have your questions answered. As you walked in the door, you were invited to fill out a comment card to share a comment or ask a question. The drop-off point for the comment cards is over to my right. If at any point during this evening's meeting you would like to add a comment, adjust a comment, or make a new comment, please go ahead and get a card and turn it in over here. We do, again, have time set aside for public comments later in the meeting. I really want to emphasize, again, that whether or not you speak at the microphone, whether or not you fill out a card, no matter what, your comments and perspectives are going to be included in the material that is ultimately provided to the City Council. So our process for tonight, we are going to begin with a presentation by the City of Phoenix Community and Economic Development Director, Christine Mackie. She is going to provide an overview for you that includes the history of the building and why it was originally constructed, the economic impact of the arena over these 30 years that it has existed, the renovation needs and the challenges associated with them, and how the proposed agreement will actually work. After the presentation, that's the point when we will open up the meeting for public comment and questions. We're going to wrap up the meeting tonight by inviting you, if you have not already done so, to visit the various stations at the back of the room. They have more information about the various aspects of the project And also Sun staff and city staff will be available there as well to further answer any questions or take any comments that you may have. So most of all, we want to hear from you. If you haven't gotten the message already, I hope it's clear that we are interested in what you think and what you have to say. A couple of housekeeping items. Restrooms are located, and this is a little tricky, it's out the door to the left where you see a stop sign. Hang a right, and then look to your left again. So it's left, right, left, and that will get you to the restrooms. We also have cookies and water set up over here, so please, at any point during the meeting, please feel free to grab some refreshments and enjoy those. Now, I am delighted to introduce the City of Phoenix Community and Economic Development Director, Christine Mackie, to begin our presentation. Thanks, Chris.
Good evening. As Janine said, I'm Chris Mackie. I'm with the Economic Development team here for the City of Phoenix. Just an overview for you what economic development does. So my team's responsible for bringing new jobs into the community, helping our existing companies grow, driving wealth into the community, and bringing new development so that we're a competitive, sustainable city. See where I'm pointing the wrong way? Oh yeah, Ken's looking at me like, turn it on, please. So first what we're going to talk about is kind of where we came from. How many in the room remember the Veterans Memorial Coliseum when the Suns played there and all the concerts were there? Yeah, okay, good. I'm not the only one tonight. That's really great. So growing up, this is the Madhouse on McDowell. This is where the Suns played. This is where all the concerts happened. I'm totally going to date myself here, but I saw the Doobie Brothers here. I saw Chicago. I saw, who else did I see? Oh gosh, I can't tell you how many different concerts that I saw here when I was growing up. And this was the place that we all went. This was the place where all the activities happened. This is where, Beach Boys, that's what I was trying to think of, the Beach Boys. So this was the place all the activity happened. This is the place we went to for any nightlife, any of our concerts or sporting events that happened in Metro Phoenix back in the day. In 1989, this building was 27 years old, so it had been built, it's run through its life, it was starting to get much older, and the city council at that time was really interested, as they are today, in revitalizing downtown Phoenix. So how many of you here remember back in the 1980s, you'd go into downtown Phoenix, you'd go to work each day, you'd get out right at 5 o'clock, you'd leave, there was no reason to be in downtown Phoenix. Our population had dwindled. We dropped about 10,000 in population from our heyday, and it was a place that you really just didn't go to at nighttime. I worked there in 1986 in downtown Phoenix. There was a Jack in the Box where City Hall is today. There were a bunch of old buildings where the arena and Diamondbacks and other buildings are, so just a far different downtown. Well, City Council was really interested in revitalizing the downtown market, so they started working with the ownership of the Suns to build a new arena here in downtown Phoenix. So if we look at that arena's history, it kind of starts in 1989. In 1989, the City Council approved two things. Number one, they approved the construction of the new building for the arena to bring the Suns and all the concerts into downtown Phoenix. But even more importantly, just like our city council today, they did not want to tax our citizens to build this new building. So what they very thoughtfully did was they created a tourism tax. And that tourism tax that's been in place since 1989 is 1% on all Phoenix hotel rooms and 2% on all rental cars. And that's been in place since 1989. It has funded the original mortgage of the arena. It's funded the arena since it was built, and it's still in place today. The City of Phoenix City Council was very thoughtful. Unlike other buildings that they created a tax, built the building and sunsetted the tax, they kept that tax in place, so it's an evergreen fund. It was always there to renovate the arena, remodel the arena, and do any major capital improvements that needed to happen. As with this city council today, it was very important to them never to burden our taxpayers. We fast forward to 1992, and the Suns opened in downtown Phoenix, the arena opened, and the Suns played there, and the concerts have been there ever since. The lease that was created in 1989 expires in 2032. So people look at me when I tell them that, like, then what are we doing here today? We got 14 years until we need to have this conversation. When the original lease was agreed to, there was created in the lease what's called an obsolescence clause. And the obsolescence allows the anchor tenant, which is the Phoenix Suns, to call on July 1st of 2019 if the building is obsolete. They can say that it's obsolete. It then goes through a very perfunctory process that's called for very, very specifically in the lease. There is a third-party arbitrator that comes in. They put a team of people into the building. They work through the building. They could come up with the list of items that need to be done and repaired. They present that to the city, and based on the lease at that time, it's 100% the responsibility of the city. Our anchor tenant has no responsibility for any improvements that need to be done. It's solely on the city's behalf. If the city council chooses not to do the improvements that are called for, that could be called for with the arbitration, our anchor tenant can leave in 2022. So we have some decisions that the city council needs to make in very short order as we look at the next 6 months. I think one of the things that surprised people the most as we've started talking about this is the city of Phoenix owns the arena. We've owned it since it was first built in 1989. The Suns are our anchor tenant, and the Suns manage the building for us. If we go back to the beginning of its construction, the city of Phoenix originally paid about $79 million for the construction of the building and some renovations that have happened since then. The Suns have invested about $150 million in our building since its original construction and renovations and remodels that have happened since that time. But most importantly, they are a tenant of the city, and with or without our anchor tenant, we still own the building. If we look at how that facility is funded, I'm going to kind of walk you through. I know I kind of generally talked about it, but I'm going to kind of walk you through how it works. So there's an existing tourism tax. And that existing tourism tax, 93% of the rental tax that comes on the sales tax that comes on our rental cars comes from outside the state of Arizona. Only 7% comes from inside the state of Arizona. When we look at our hotel tax, which is 1%, 88% of it comes from outside the state of Arizona. And a larger portion comes from outside the region, but 88% comes from outside the state of Arizona. It's an existing tourism tax that's in place. That tourism tax goes into what was created in 1989, which is called the Sports Facilities Fund. And the Sports Facilities Fund, since day one, has always funded the mortgage on the arena. So there were bonds issued on the arena, and those bonds have been paid by the Sports Facilities Fund since inception. Even in the worst of SB 1070, in the depths of the recession, the fund always had plenty of money to not only pay for the mortgage on the building, pay for any major capital improvements that needed to happen, but it's funded other things like the revitalization of the Maryville Baseball Stadium. So that mortgage in that building allows the events to happen. So we have concerts, we have basketball games, we have Disney on Ice, we have all these different kinds of events that happen in the building. And those tickets and sales of t-shirts and sales of programs and things that people buy outside the arena when they come into downtown, whether it's dinner or drinks or whatever they do, creates a revenue that then moves through that building. That revenue actually moves into the City Council General Fund. And what the General Fund is, it's appropriated by City Council every year. It's our normal budget. It's the budget that pays for police and streets and fire and parks and libraries and other things. So the money kind of moves from our tourism actually into a revenue that can be used for things throughout the city. I found it interesting, as we've been talking about this over the last month, a lot of the people I talk to think it's an either or. We can either have the events in downtown Phoenix or we can have parks and streets and other things. It's not an either or, it's a both. This building creates a revenue. It's one of the only city buildings that actually cash flows a positive revenue, as you can see, that flows into the budget that the City Council appropriates each year. There are 130 ticketed events that are in the building each and every year. That means there's an event in the building every 3 days. And that brings anywhere from 7,000 to 16,000 people into downtown Phoenix for each one of those events that spend money and enjoy a kind of a vibrant, creative city of downtown Phoenix. But I think it's also important to note the Suns are only 30% of what happened in the building. The other activities that happen in the building are, the World Wrestling, WWE, that's coming again here in the near future. I was in New Orleans a few months ago when that activity was in New Orleans. If you've ever seen a city that has the WWE descend on it, those people spend some serious money. I walked around with people with these massive belts, and they had their masks on, and it was just crazy cool how much fun they were having in the city. And they're coming into downtown Phoenix in very short order. We see Marvel Universe, we see Garth Brooks, we see U2, we see lots of different things that happen in the building. But unlike the other arenas that exist in the state of Arizona and some of them across the country, this building to operate does not cost the city any money. Our anchor tenant, the Suns, actually programs and operates all of the events that happen in the building each and every year. So where Glendale pays about $5.6 million a year to an event coordinator to program the building, and then Glendale also pays for the operations of the building, the Phoenix Suns program and operate the city's building at no cost. So to date, since inception, the Suns have spent about $300 million operating our building, and the city of Phoenix has spent zero. And the one thing I didn't know, and I really feel bad that I didn't know this going into a few months ago, was the number of community events that take place in this building each and every day. And I learned as I was chatting with the Suns one day, and one of them mentioned that there are 41 Suns basketball games in the building every year, but there's more than 80 youth nonprofit basketball games, whether it's YMCA or Boys and Girls Club or any of the other hundreds of nonprofits that they work with. So they do so much work with them. So you'll see the pictures that are up there. You see all the activities are happening. In the middle bottom, it's Brittany Griner, who is one of the Suns. She did a fundraise or activity to raise shoes for the homeless, and that's her laying in the middle of the shoes that were raised from that. So more than 200 community events happen in that building each and every year. And now the reason I'm here, of course, the economic impact that happens in the building each year. So you'll see the restaurants really alive in downtown Phoenix during the activities in our arena. The building has $182 million economic impact each and every year that comes out of the building. And what I mean by economic impact, it's the number of hotel rooms that are generated, the number of meals and restaurants and retail and jobs that are created out of that building each and every year. That produces nearly $13 million of direct tax revenue that goes into the city of Phoenix coffers that the Phoenix City Council programs each year to pay for the services our citizens enjoy. About $14 million goes into the state and county from the same thing, and that's not including $8 million in sales tax from ticket sales that goes to the state and county each year. And jobs. There are 380 full-time jobs in the building and more than 700 part-time jobs in the building. But even more importantly, as an economic developer, there are almost 60 companies who are supported by business with the arena each and every year, and that creates almost 1,200 jobs. And what I mean by that, you might have a plumber who goes in to work in the building. You'll have an electrician. You'll have somebody repairing the escalator. You've got roll-up garage doors, and those companies do work that goes into that facility. Our facility's old. I didn't think I was very old at 27 years old, but I also didn't have 40 million visitors that came into my building. So as you look at the pictures, our building is 27 years old. It has had about 40 million people who flush the toilets each and every year in the building. And I realize we're at dinner, so I apologize, but the upper left photo is actually one of our waste pipes that is become so clogged it can't be snaked anymore. And so those pipes need to be replaced. The city council recently had to approve an immediate repair on one of those pipes. We have our roof. You know, no matter how well you take care of your home, you have your roof inspected every year, you have it taken care of, you have it patched. At 27 years, it's the Arizona summer. It's the heat where it constricts and it expands. It needs to be replaced. Just like your home, at 27 years, your roof at home, no matter how good you take care of it, it needs to be replaced. I look at my air conditioning system. I am really lucky. It's made it 15 years. I get it serviced twice a year. I know it's coming. I know I'm going to have to replace it. Equipment's just not meant, no matter how well we take care of it, it's not meant to last for an entire lifetime. If we think about technology, when this building was built in 1992, it was AOL dial-up for your webmail. So y'all remember the woo, 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 you've got mail. That's what was in place on dial-up telephones when this building was built. Now you've got, I don't have my phone with me, I dropped it in my purse, we'll pretend this is my phone. Now you've got everyone at every concert and basketball game who wants to Instagram and tweet and take pictures and send video of everyone that's in the game. And you've got the media who has much different technology than they used to have back in the day, who also needs more broadband and more bandwidth than we have in the building today. And if we look at ADA accessibility, the building met code requirements in 1992 when it was built. But as the codes change, as they're modified, there's more things that we can do in the building than we are able to do today with a remodel inside the building. And things that I didn't even think of. So in 1992, when the building was built, there were no women referees that were in Phoenix games. There's an entire women's team now that plays in the building, and they need additional locker rooms. Those locker rooms don't work. You have both men and women, both on the referee side and on the player side, and they just don't work. The upper left-hand picture is our escalators. Our escalators have been repaired and repaired and repaired and repaired, and they're nearing the end of life. Again, they've had 40 million people who moved up and down them. And the bottom picture is our concourse. When the building was built, as many people weren't always in the building as they are today. If you're coming out of, and this picture is actually, you're coming out of the ladies' restroom, if you're standing at the snack stand to get a beer or nachos or a burger or something, it makes it impossible for the pinch points for people to move around the concourse to get back to their seats and where they're going. So now we'll walk through the proposed transaction that we have that staff is recommending for council consideration here. The city would invest $150 million in the building, and that would be capped. And our investment is all in public infrastructure. It's in the escalators, it's in telecommunication, it's in plumbing and HVAC and the roof and those type of things. It will continue to be paid for should council consider to move this forward with the existing tourism tax. There is absolutely no new tax on our citizens, nor is there any new tax on our tourists. It's the exact same tax that's been in place since 1989. That tax would also create an account, a supplement to our account, our reserve and replacement account, $2 million a year to make sure we always have enough money to keep the building repaired. And the city will remain the landlord. It does not change the transaction that's there today. If we look at our partner, the Suns, they would pay $80 million plus any cost overruns. So any of you that are here in the construction business, you always know there are cost overruns because we don't know what we don't know about the building yet. So we fully expect those overruns to happen. The Suns' investments would be in those, the guest. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Would be all the guest-facing activities. It's the suites. It's the things that are more facing for the ticket holders than the infrastructure for the building. They will continue to pay us rent, and I apologize earlier. I neglected to tell you that since the inception of the transaction, the Suns have paid us $30.3 million in rent, and we are estimating the rent over the next 15 years. There is an increase. We expect that to increase to $60 million over the 15-year period of time. The Suns would be required to build a new practice arena somewhere in the city of Phoenix. And why that's important is, number one, it generates new revenue to the city of Phoenix, but much more importantly to us is it moves the Suns players and their practice out of the arena, and it allows us to program the building even more days than we do today. So today, if the Suns are practicing, we can't have an event inside the arena, but now with a new practice facility that's outside of the current location, we'd be able to program the building a number more of event days. The Suns would remain the tenant until 2037, and there's an additional 5-year lease extension, so they could remain until 2042 before anything had to be renegotiated. And they will continue to pay 100% of maintenance and operations of our building, again, for the next 15 years. So if we look at the capital split from the original construction and the investments that have, capital investments that have been made in the building over the last 27 years, plus this investment, we are very close to a 50-50 split. We're a little bit more on the city side by about 4%, but we're very close to a 50-50 split from the original investment to today. One of the things our citizens keep asking me, and don't think that staff just said, this is our only option, this is what we have to do. We actually went through quite a number of items to determine what we should bring forward for council consideration. So first, let's talk about it going obsolete. So if the council chooses at this time not to do anything on July 1st, the Suns will call obsolescence on the building. We will go through that very perfunctory process, and the arbitrator will tell us the amount of money that we have to invest in the building. Remembering at that time, it's 100% on the city of Phoenix. If we choose not to do it, and council absolutely can choose not to do it, the Suns have the right to leave in 2022, but we still own a building. We still own that piece of real estate. I've had people say to me, well, since the Suns are only 30% of the building, why not just operate it, the city to operate it as an event center? I'm here to tell you, I have a really talented economic development team. We are really good at bringing companies and jobs into this community, but we are not experts at programming events in the building. And on top of it, the Suns are able to keep the building very active and moving forward, and that's how we get that 130 plus ticketed events. We'd be starting back at the very beginning of working with someone to get that building programmed. We could sell the building. That's been a consideration I've heard from individuals, is why don't you just sell the building and get out of the arena business altogether? We've seen that happen in a couple of places across the country. In Miami, the city did sell their building to a private operator who tried for 3 or 4 years to make it work, was never able to make it work, and ended up demolishing the building to build something new there. We've seen it happen in Houston. That happened in Houston. They sold their arena. It became a mega church. That's where Joel Osteen, when you see him on TV, that's where he's doing his service from, is from that building. That is an activity. We would stop bringing all of those significant activities into downtown Phoenix and bringing the tens of thousands of people into downtown Phoenix to spend money. The other thing we've talked about with everyone is, well, what if you just demolish the building and now you could sell your land? Downtown Phoenix is a really hot place right now, so why not just sell the land? So what you see in front of you, the big yellow box, is the actual arena site. It's about 9 acres in size. And then you see an example of a full city block just to the upper corner of that. So the arena site is just over 3 city blocks. So you'd be able to fit 3 of that full city block development into the arena site. So if we looked at what our land prices in downtown Phoenix, depending on which corner of the arena site you sell, it's going to be somewhere between $110 and $153 a square foot. We know that from recent transactions that we've done in downtown Phoenix. So let's take the higher end of the number and a 9-acre site. We could sell the land for about $60 million at current values today. We know that it's right at $15 million. We've had an analysis done. We know it's about $15 million to demolish the building, which means it would net the city $45 million. When you look at the full city development, that full city block that you see there drives revenue about 20% of what you see the Suns Arena or the city's arena create today. So if you can fit 3 of them, and however long that took to build out, We tend to build a city block about every decade. However long it took to build out, we'd then get about 60% of the revenue in direct taxes that we're getting into the city of Phoenix today by owning the arena and having the Suns manage and program the arena for us. So in summary, it is a city-owned facility. It's been a city-owned facility since 1989. It's been paid for by tourism since the day that it was built. It has about $182 million economic impact each and every year into the city. Nearly $13 million that goes into the city coffers to support the activities that our citizens need and demand. About $14 million in revenue to the state and county. And again, the most nearest and dearest to my heart, of course, which is the jobs that it drives into the community. So that completes my presentation. I'm going to bring Janine back up, who will ask the experts to come back and answer all of the questions that you might have. Thanks for having me tonight.
Chris? So we are moving into the public comment portion of the meeting. I did notice we had some late arrivals. So as you came in, you passed a public comment card table. Make sure you picked up a card and make sure you drop it off over here. Even if you choose not to speak, we would like your written comments included in the report that ultimately will go to the City Council. So please don't forget about that. And as I mentioned, all the comments are going to be officially recorded to the meeting. If you filled out a card, it simply doesn't matter whether you check the box to speak or not. Either way, your comments will be part of the official record. At the beginning of the meeting, I mentioned that we have Gloria over here to do Spanish translation. If you need any help, please visit with her. We also have our court reporter, Kim, present. And as I mentioned earlier, if you would like your comment included verbatim in the record, in other words, precisely as you would like to have it said, please see her and she will make sure that that happens for you. You can also flag down city staff if you'd like, and they can help you too. For those of you who want to provide public comment or ask a question, we're going to begin that process. Speakers can come up when I call your name to the microphone here in the middle of the audience. Each speaker will have 3 minutes, and that is going to be a firm time limit. Part of my job is to help you, so when you're getting a little short on time, I will alert you, and this device up here makes a very clear noise when your time has expired. So we'll ask that everybody be respectful of those time limits this evening. If at any point during the meeting you feel that your comment has been shared already or your question has already answered, feel free to just let us know and we'll move on to the next speaker. Again, your comment will still be included in the record. If questions are asked and we are not able to get a quick on-the-spot answer for you tonight, we're going to use the contact information that you supplied to us on your comment card, and someone from the city or from the Suns will be back in touch with you. Our goal is to ensure that no question goes unanswered. Now I'd like to introduce some key staff from the city and the Phoenix Suns to join us up here as our panel tonight. Denise Olson, would you come up? She is the Chief Financial Officer for the City of Phoenix. Welcome, Denise. John Chan, who is the Director of the Phoenix Convention Center. Thanks for being here, John. Jeremy Legg, who is the Special Projects Manager for the Convention Center, is going to join us. Jason Rowley, the President and CEO of the Suns, is joining us tonight, along with Jim Pittman, who is the Executive Vice President and Chief Financial Officer for the Suns. No Jim tonight? Doggone it. I was looking forward to seeing him. All right. We've got comment cards. Thank you. And we have a small number of them, so I'm going to issue a last call right now. If you have not turned in a comment card and would like to make a comment tonight, please do so now. We don't want to miss you, so now is the time to turn those in. First up is Chris Kaufman, who asked to speak tonight. Hi, Chris.
Hi. I'm with Helping Hands for Single Moms, and I'm one of those hundreds of nonprofits that the Phoenix Suns have been helping. And I just want to share, over the years, we've been able to use the building 4 times. Twice the Suns invited us down to do a Thanksgiving event for our moms where they gave them turkey dinners for their families, one Mother's Day event where they had the moms, they made crafts, and we did a fundraiser one time in the lobby, and Robert Sarver came and made a generous donation. And over the 10 years that the Sons have partnered with us, they have given us probably over 1,000 tickets. The Sons Charities has provided close to $50,000, $60,000 for our holiday event that we have every year where we raise tens of twenties, thousands of dollars of gifts. And I just want to tell you, we work with low-income single moms going to college, and these ladies are stressed out, their families are, while the mom tries to work, go to school, and raise her family. And when we take them to a Suns game, they need a break, and they come and we see their faces lit up, the weight's off their shoulder for an evening, they come and have a wonderful time. What the Phoenix Suns are doing is making a difference in these families' lives. And lest anyone think, well, that's great, but what does it have to do with the city of Phoenix? In the 10 years since the Phoenix Suns have been assisting us, 230 moms, low-income single moms have graduated from college. Over 150 of those are nursing students, and they are now out working as nurses. If you would go to the hospital in Phoenix, you just might have one of the moms from our program. The Sons have made a big difference in the lives of our low-income single mom families, and now those women are out making a difference in the community. And we greatly appreciate all the support they give to nonprofits. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Will Holton has asked to speak. Will, are you here? Thank you.
Mayor, ladies and gentlemen, staff, I'm Will Holton. I'm a native of Phoenix, and I had a career as a police officer here, retired about 3 years ago. And I just wanted to, well, a lot of my questions have already been answered from the great presentations already. I was glad to see the millions of dollars going to the police and fire. Once we're I was surprised that much was going there, as much as they keep asking for more. Yeah, it gets sucked up somewhere. Anyway, yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to say I know we all need to get about safely, reasonably, quickly, and economically as well. And I was impressed. Words mean a lot to me, and I think the 230 million is a lot more positive than $250 million. So that was kind of neat. Anyway, I realized from doing a lot of construction myself on houses and other type structures, I know about cost overruns and misestimates and time schedules and things like that. And I'm just curious, as one of my questions was, I suppose there's a percentage they built into the estimation for proposed problems or overruns and things like that. It's had to be in the mix somewhere.
Well, first and foremost, I'm Jason Rowley with the Sons. First, wanted to thank you for your service as a police officer to the community. That's obviously something that's, that's a big sacrifice. As a veteran myself, I kind of understand that a bit, although I was only in for about 4 years rather than an entire career, so thank you for that. Two things on how that's been allocated. Yes, in the estimates that we put together, there was certainly a component for overruns or override, kind of a typical, I think what we ran in there is about 10%. But more importantly, if it does hit the $250 million rather than the 230, that 20 million or anything more than that is our nickel. So what we've agreed to as part of this deal with the City of Phoenix is any cost overruns above the 150 million that the city puts in, we cover them ourselves.
All right, that's okay. That's part of the planning. That's good. Appreciate that. A little bit of levity here, and that'll be it for me. But I noticed, since I'm a desert dweller for a long time, I don't want to call myself a Phoenician. I'm not that old. I'm a native of Phoenix. Anyway. I noticed that some of the most prettiest and durable structures I've ever seen are pyramids. I don't know what those Egyptians knew, but those things are still standing. It's kind of too bad we can't look around and see if we can't perhaps, well, I'm not going to say copy, but something in their design sure works a long time, and they didn't do much renovation.
You've got about 30 seconds.
Yeah, there's been a lot of pillaging of the pyramids, but not renovation. Except when I took a trip down North Central just a little while ago, and then a little light went on my head when I saw that we do have a pyramid here in Phoenix. We do. Well, just north of Osborne on North Central. The only thing is,
Your time's up.
it's upside down.
Right. Thank you. Mike DiBenedetto would like to speak.
Thank you, everyone. My name is Mike DiBenedetto. I'm a small business owner here in Phoenix. My company is a manufacturer's rep for a roofing membrane called Fibertite, which happens to be on all of the flat areas on the arena. Approximately 55,000 square feet, and that was installed by a local roofing contractor back in 2013. And I noticed that as we were going through the presentation and some of the information that was out there, you guys are looking at replacing the roof. When that building was originally installed, the system that was installed was from a company that's now out of business, and there's no warranty left on it. But all the flat roof areas have a product called Fibertite on it. We have a track record here in Phoenix. I think our oldest roof is about 31 or 32 years old, and it's still performing. By that I mean you can go back and repair the roof. Your roof was installed in 2013 on all the flat areas, so that warranty is still in effect. It would be a shame and a waste of money to tear that roof off to replace it. In my expert opinion, the only roof that needs to be replaced is the dome. It's the old J.P. Stevens roof that they've actually replaced once already, and then they went out of business, and that roof is failing for you now. So I would just recommend that you retake a look at the monies that you're setting aside for re-roofing the entire facility and just concentrate on the one area that needs to be re-roofed, which is the dome, and you could save a lot of money and use those in other locations. And I think we stopped all the leaks over your office area when we did that re-roof, so.
Maria, you had one in your office the other day, didn't you?
Okay, so still under warranty, it still gets repaired through the manufacturer and the contractor. I just hope that you would take a look at what options are available in keeping those roofs in place. The company, I know the manufacturer would look at extending that warranty. So if you guys stay on board, we're looking at anywhere from 18 to 24 more years in that facility. And we know for a fact our membrane will go way past that in life expectancy.
Look, and Mike, appreciate that. The reality is anywhere where we're able to find cost savings in this project, the reality is we're not building the Taj Mahal here. We're essentially trying to find the components of the building or identifying the components of the building that we know need to be redone. And if there's ways to kind of find savings, we'll certainly be all ears for that, because none of us want to spend, again, if you're looking at having to go over that original budget, that's the last thing we want to do, so we're going to be looking for as much savings as possible. The other piece of the roofing, though, and the structure that's a big part of it, though, is not just the roof, but also the rigging grid that has been talked about some. And the distinction there, and you probably know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the rigging grid, is the weight capacity of that grid doesn't match up with what is out there in terms of shows coming in. It used to be when that building was built in 1992, and even though we've done some work to fortify it over time, shows would come in and they'd have 2 trucks. Well, now you have shows coming in and they have 30 trucks, hanging all that equipment in different points around the building. And so those are the things that are also going to have work done on them. But look, to the extent that there's ways for us to reutilize and repurpose things that are in the building right now, such as some of the roofing, we'd certainly be doing that. I know, Alvin Adams, who's our Vice President of Facility Management, is in back there, and he could probably speak to that even better than I could in terms of what are some of those pieces that we've been able to maintain over time. Certain things, the fact is we're beyond the useful life in terms of what the manufacturers have recommended, and a lot of these things, what Alvin, in some of these things, 5, 10 years beyond their useful life, and still kind of making it work, but eventually, as we're looking at with the piping and some of these other things, you know, they run out of gas.
Exactly, and I'm saying our useful life is way
About 30
beyond the warranty
seconds.
on our system, and I'm more than happy to sit down with you guys and go through everything with you. And thank you for your service.
Thank you. I noticed we had a couple more late arrivals. If you'd like to make a comment, please be sure to pick up a comment card. Okay, it's over by the door where you just came in. Louis Snyder would like to speak.
Thank you. I drive a lot between 19th Avenue and 75th Avenue on Cactus, Thunderbird, and Bell. The speed limit is 40 and 45 miles an hour. People go around me all the time. Now, do I drive a little bit over that? Yes, but people go around me very fast. I set at a signal, and people, when the light turns green, they don't go. Why? Because they're texting. I also, when people go around me, they don't signal. Why? One hand's on their steering wheel, the other hand is texting or on the phone. If you're at a signal and you're trying to turn left and you're 4 or 5 cars back, the light turns green, and the person is texting in front of you or on the phone, you don't make it through the left-hand turn lane. So my point is, I would like to see more police officers. And I looked on the City of Phoenix website, and it says police officer salaries are $51,400 to $72,400. Average, I'm not a math major, but the average is $62,000. If you take $62,000 and $150 million, you should be able to afford 2,419 police officers. I would personally like to see the money go towards that. Street maintenance. Again, Cactus, Bell, 19th Avenue, 75th Avenue. I'm not a geek, but I looked up on Google, and the printout says, to mill and resurface a 4-lane road costs an average of $1.25 million per mile. And so I divided $1.25 million into $250 million. I'm not a math major. I was a business ed major. I get 120 miles of paved road we could do. I live near 35th Avenue in Peoria. I have a house at Kachuna Village in Flagstaff. So we're going from milepost 208 to 333. That's 125 miles. We could pave roads up to there in the city of Phoenix. The pavement budget from the city. Annual budget repair and maintenance,
Mr. Snyder, you have 30 seconds.
$24 to $27 million. If you divide that, I think you could have 9.81 years for money for roads. So I'd rather have the money spent towards that. Thank you.
Thank you. Bramley Paulin has asked to speak.
Good evening. My question's for staff. Can you expand on the accusations that these negotiations have been going on for a very long time, and it was only in, say, the last couple of weeks that it became public, and how it applies to the city's procurement policy when the city is negotiating with one party rather than multiple public, going out to the public, say through a request for proposal. And I would also like to understand, was there any studies done to understand the condition of the property and the financial impacts and so on? Who created the study? And did the city do its own study with the understanding that if this proposal doesn't go through, potentially there's arbitration, I don't know if that's called a quasi-judicial, but you have two parties that could be adversarial. And so does the city have its own study? And does representatives such as the mayor, and I don't know if Ms. Stark is still here, and there are other council members, do they have copies of these studies and they are able to read them and understand them themselves?
So I'm going to start at the beginning and work my way through the questions, and then I'll turn them over to the team that can answer them more thoroughly. So first I'll start with the negotiations. So first I'll be very candid. I wasn't involved in any of the original negotiations. Our others in our team were involved in the original negotiations. And they did start in 2015, approximately. And we looked at a lot of different things. You know, the first thing we looked at was, should we build a new arena? So we looked at that, we reviewed that, it came back way too costly. We have a fine building today, no reason to build a new arena. Of course, the Coyotes approached the city. They were interested in being in downtown Phoenix. So we probably spent more than a year studying what that building could look like and what that could work towards, all working towards something that staff could recommend to city council for their consideration. So it's only been in the last month or so, as you all know, it's hit the press. It's been out there as much as us knowing about it. It's been the press really quickly as soon as it was coming to fruition. We started moving pretty quickly in our negotiations, and the reason being is that obsolescence clause. We're facing the July 1st obsolescence, so it made us all sharpen our pencils and work towards work towards a solution. But the reason you see us moving pretty quickly with these community meetings is if the building, should the council consider to do this, the building would be remodeled over the summers when the building is in least of use. So in the summers is when the Suns and the Mercury and most of the concerts aren't happening. So we would take the building down for summers. We don't want the building not to be active. We don't want to go 3 or 4 years without a building, and if we brought hockey into the area, we'd have to take the building offline to rebuild, to add hockey into that arena at a much greater cost. So as we've looked towards it, we'd really like to start, should we move this forward, we'd like to start that remodel in the summer of 19. It would take place in the summer of 19, the summer of 20, and the summer of 21. So it would take place over subsequent summers where it caused the least impact on any revenue that would be generated out of the building, which was most important to the city. So as we were able to come to that conclusion towards the end of 18, that's what we brought forward to City Council, and they very thoughtfully directed staff to go out to the community and see what the community had to say about that, and here we are today. So that's how that process worked. If we're looking at negotiations, it's a basketball arena. There is one tenant in Arizona, to my knowledge, that's a professional basketball team, and that's the Phoenix Suns. And that allows us, through our procurement process, to use what's called a sole source, because there is one option, and that's the Phoenix Suns. They're the only professional basketball team in the state of Arizona. If we'd had several, that would be a completely different process. But because we had one, through our procurement process and through the state law, we're allowed to do what's called a sole source because it's one tenant that's been in that building. Let me go back in one more time what your last question was, which is the study. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Jeremy Legg and to talk about any of the studies that they have.
So thank you for your questions. Relative to study, so the Suns did embark upon a study regarding the arena starting a year or two ago to look at what is it going to take to bring this facility back up to par. And the Suns have shared that with us, with the city and the city staff and consultants that the city has hired that specialize in working on renovating sports facilities for a living, have helped us take a look at that information to determine that this course that we've tentatively negotiated and that we're proposing and recommending for the city council is how that came to be.
Just for that clarification, the city does have its own independent consultant, Barrett Consulting, that took that report, instead of recreating the report, instead of sending engineers into the buildings and architects and others into the building, they took that report. They're a nationally recognized expert. They had their construction team go through the report and make sure that they were all in the line of scope and within reason and a reasonable amount and reasonable things that needed to be done. So the city did not walk into this blind, although we haven't sent anyone yet in to go do our own study. We did take that study and move it on to our team of experts, our consultants, who went over it with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that it was a study that made sense for all of us.
So if I understand, potentially there's arbitration, that the city has not conducted its own independent study, but is relied upon the party that is potentially adversarial.
So to answer that, so the city council has, we are preparing for that. That is nothing that would be new to us in our conversations. If we move to arbitration, we will obtain our own consultant to be able to do that work on behalf of the city. Right now, we have a partner that we have a transaction with that we're trying to come to a positive conclusion to not have to move through the arbitration process. Should we move to that process, the city would have its own consultant who would go through and with a fine-tooth comb and give us the exact report that you're talking about.
And so my final question was,
30 seconds.
this study, this is available and in the possession of council members? It is. Okay. Thank you.
For those who couldn't hear the mayor, she said it has been available for several weeks. Mike Dwyer has asked to speak.
Am I the last one?
No.
You know, it's interesting. South Mountain Park, largest municipal park in the nation. We get 3 million visitors there a year. The city of Phoenix can't keep the visitor center over because of budget issues, can't keep it open. So we rely on a nonprofit to do that for us. And yet, we're ready to vote, some council, it's up $150 million for an organization that's valued at $1.28 billion. For an organization that Forbes says makes at least $210 million annually from just gate fees. There's an irony there, and I hope a lot of people see it. You know, sometimes giving half the information is almost as dangerous as giving incorrect information. You know, a lot of what we see in these presentations, you hear about how there's 130 events at the stadium. The implication is that it's the city of Phoenix putting those on. Those aren't our events. Those are put on by the Phoenix Suns affiliate. We benefit very slightly. That $12.8 million to the city, that includes all that money from those 130 events and our rent and everything else. Don't be swayed by a lot of what goes on. You have to be careful. You know, we see the economic impact, but we only get part of the story. You can go 2 blocks north and look at the biomedical center. You know what their impact is? As of 2013, $1.3 billion. You know how many jobs? 9,000, over 9,000 jobs. Big difference. So the question becomes, what should our city be partnering with, and what should our city should be targeting? You cannot find an economic study, if you do any research at all, that has shown a public funded stadium ever makes the money back for the public. Never. You get a lot of fear mongering. Well, you know, when these events are downtown, you have this increase in restaurants, and that's true. But here's the deal. It's called opportunity costs. What's been shown study after study is if this team left, if that was the option, that money doesn't go with them, it's still spent. Now I go to dinner maybe in my neighborhood, I go visit a small business, I go do something else. So don't be swayed by thinking if this team goes, there's no longer
Mr. Dwyer,
this
you
economic
have 30
impact.
seconds.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So sometimes you need to look a little bit farther. And the last thing I'll say, because you and I go to all these meetings, you learn something every day. Did you know we want to take a loan out, because that's what these bonds are, right? $150 million for property in a building that doesn't even reach half that value? Could you get a mortgage? If you owned a house for $1 million, could you get a mortgage for $2 million? Go out and take a loan on that house? We want to take $150 million out on a piece of property that we say
Your time has
conservatively is
expired.
60. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Carl Gentles would like to speak.
Well, I certainly appreciate you letting me follow Mike there. That's a whole lot of energy. Thank you, Mayor, City Council, Janine, and members of the City of Phoenix staff, and John Chan. My name is Carl Gentles, Executive Director of Back to School Clothing Drive. Our organization serves 25,000 kids from Title I public elementary schools each and every year. The majority of those kids are from the City of Phoenix. And the Sons and the City of Phoenix have been immense supporters, just like Chris's organization, immense supporters of Back to School, and I'm here to stand in support with the city and with the Sons to say thank you for your support. Listen, I live right here. I live right here about a block away, Mayor Williams. I drive downtown every day. Drive downtown to work, and also drive down to enjoy the arena and enjoy the Sons and enjoy all the cultural amenities down there. And I quite frankly think it's a no-brainer that we're here today to to support this initiative. Look, I've owned rental properties over the years. I wish I had a deal like this with my rental properties, okay, where we've got an anchor tenant that's putting in all that kind of money into my rental property that I own that is not going to go back to the Sons, doesn't add value to their balance sheet. So I really wish I could make that deal, and if you can make that happen for me, I'd love to see that happen, so thank you. None of us like to make repairs, but we all make repairs on our houses. We all put away money to do the roof, and we redo our kitchens, and my wife wants me to do our kitchen now, so we all put money away for that. Okay, this is no different. I actually appreciate the foresight of the city back in 1989 to make this deal that makes it easier to do the necessary renovations that we need to have done here. And so what I would say is this. I would liken it to this. We've been using this facility for 30 years. We've enjoyed it every year for 30 years. And now we're talking about stepping away and saying, forget it, let's not renovate it, after we've enjoyed it. I think that's like going to Morton's and eating their steak and drinking their food, their drinks, and then deciding, you know, that wasn't a really good steak, and enjoying it for about 3 hours. In this case, it's 30 years. So I really do support the Sons. I support the arena, support the City of Phoenix, and I appreciate your support of Back to School Clothing Drive, so thank you.
Thank you. Charles, and I apologize, I'm probably going to mispronounce your last name. Lotzen? Lotzar.
Close enough. That was great. I just want to say thanks for the opportunity to come and say something. I thought the presentation was great and the written materials were great. And from my vantage point, if you want to be a world-class city, you have to have world-class events and amenities. And it doesn't matter if you're going to go to the symphony or not, I want to have a symphony. I don't care if you're going to go to the art museum or not, I want to have one. I want to have world-class sports as well. And I think one of the things that we're losing sight of is how much synergy has been created by the public dollars that have been spent recently in the city of Phoenix. You know, we look at the sports facilities, the convention center, ASU campus, the medical center, light rail, all of that created great energy for development in the downtown. It would not have happened but for that. And someone that's active in commercial real estate, I want to see that momentum continue. I want to see continued growth, and I want to have the confidence that there's going to be activity and growth as we go along. One of the things that I'm concerned about is in the event that we don't come through for the Sons, what happens? It leaves a big hole in our city, and I think people, if you start thinking some private concern is going to come in and step in and help out, they're just not going to do it. They need to have a return on investment, and when we're talking about the investment here, it's substantial. But this is a building the city owns and really should take management of and take control of and continue to do well with. For me, any private party would just not be able to afford it. One of the things that didn't get talked about much was the fact that as a practical matter, there's no taxes paid as far as real estate goes. For a private party, the deal just simply wouldn't work if we put that additional burden on it. The city can finance it a lot cheaper than a private party could, and I think we'll have a lot better result as of having that. And I'm glad that you've been able to come together and come with the partnership. So from my vantage point, again, someone said earlier it was a no-brainer. I think that's a great way to put it. I'm thrilled that you're here. I think you did a great job in your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeffrey Waldrum.
Jeffrey Waldrum, native Phoenician, season ticket holder since 1968 with my father. Okay, so we're up there as the 50 seasons. But I still have some concerns, Jason. So we talked about the income, or we talked about the mortgage. What is the mortgage versus the income?
So the mortgage is going to be paid with the taxes that Chris mentioned in the presentation. And so that's not the income of the building, but that's the taxes that have been designated to repay this debt. So the Sports Facilities Fund from hotels and rental cars is getting about $20 million a year. And then the debt service payments that we're forecasting is about $13.7 million a year.
Okay, but what do the Suns pay you for rental income?
So I would say that in my world, the direct cost that we're getting from the operations of the arena gets back to Chris's number, the 12.8. Now, that does not include all the ways that that dollar bounces around to restaurants and all the different
I
activities
understand
that
that,
go
but
downtown. Right.
so it's about a wash.
Here's what I think you're getting at. Look, here's the way stepping back as a private citizen, just trying to look at the numbers myself, what's a reasonable increase in tax value each year? Is 3% a reasonable amount?
That's
So
reasonable.
here's what I did, just to kind of run the numbers in my head. This deal is going to run out another 18 years.
Right.
Okay? So if right now the building generates 12.8, call it $13 million a year to the city, directly related to the arena in rent and taxes, that's obviously going to increase about 3% a year. That's kind of the number I used. You run that at 18 years, the number I came up with was about $304 million. So if you're putting in $150 million, and then obviously there's going to be some interest on top of that, if your debt service is about 13 or so a year, that's flat starting off, but your income from the building is going to continue to go up over time. So as you go further down the road, your gap gets larger and larger. So you're essentially in a situation like, I kind of look at it as, let's say you were a landlord owning a single family home, you have a tenant in there that's paying more than your mortgage, so you get your mortgage paid for, you pocket a little money as well, and over time as the rents go up,
Okay,
your return on it goes.
That's the question. That's the key right there. So the Suns have the arena has 130 events every year, but the city doesn't get that money. The Suns do, right? We don't get any of that income.
They get a percentage of it as rent.
Okay, as rent.
Right. So the way our deal works is we cover 100% of the operating costs. It sounds like I'm throwing the number 300 million around a lot, but from the time of inception of the building till now, that's about what we've spent in operating costs for the building, about $300 million a year.
Right.
So every year we cover 100% of the operational costs.
Right.
As kind of a comparison, you could look at our competition out in Glendale, where the city actually pays, $5.5 million a year. So, and loses about 3.8 or 3.9 a year. So if you look at the difference between those two deals, it's a pretty wide margin.
Okay, so every event we have there or that's held there, the city gets a piece of it.
Correct.
And you cover all the operating expenses.
Correct.
Okay. So the last question, which everybody's asking themselves, is why should we as citizens fund a private enterprise when the owner of the private enterprise is a billionaire?
Well,
So, I'd love to take that one myself,
Okay.
if you don't mind. So unless you stay in, I'll start off with just the logistics, and then we can get into the other side of it. So just from the logistics standpoint, unless you rent a car or stay in a hotel room, which I do, when I go to see Garth Brooks or I go to see
Right.
U2 or something, I'll stay in downtown Phoenix, which means I'm paying a 1% tax that goes into the building. But 93% of the tax comes out of the state of Arizona. So the lion's share of the building, of the revenue that goes into the funds being paid for from outside the state of Arizona. It's not our citizens, unless you rent a car or stay in a hotel room, that's actually paying that tax. It's an ordinance that was created by the city in 1989 that has to be directed to tourism and sporting activities. It's not like city council today could say, hey, we'd
So
like
everybody
to,
sitting in this room really pays nothing for the arena.
unless you rent a car or stay in a hotel. I want to be fully transparent.
Right,
That is
no.
dead spot correct.
Okay.
They do not pay for it unless they've had a rental car or a hotel in the city of Phoenix. They have not paid a
Got my
penny
vote.
into it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I just want to add one more thing to that. Keep in mind that the tax is coming from the visitors, but it's going, the revenue that we're getting from the facility is going back to the general fund for police and fire and parks. So we're taking that money and making it work to the benefit of the city.
And our last speaker, Josh Stein, actually declined to speak and asked that I read his comment. Over the years, the Sons and Sons Charities, incidentally, I should say that Josh is part of the team of the Boys and Girls Club of Metro Phoenix. Over the years, the Sons and Sons Charities have contributed more than $1 million in grants, scholarships, and other contributions. This past year, they refurbished 5 courts as part of the team's 50th anniversary last season. You may have seen the new teen center of IG Homes, where hundreds of kids every day enjoy technology, games, and more. These safe places keep our kids engaged, focused on school, and working toward graduation and career pathways. There are few teams in the league who invest back into their local community in the way the Suns and the Mercury do, and we are grateful for their continued partnership. Many organizations, including, let's see, I'm going to have to skip over a word, I'm sorry, rely on their support. I'm going to assume it means many organizations rely on their support. I hope you consider their deep roots in our community and consider how much they give back to nonprofit organizations serving underserved youth. Thank you. Thanks everybody on the panel. Really appreciate your answers and expertise. If you can hang on to your seats for just a few minutes. Before we conclude tonight, I want to invite you again to visit the stations at the back of the room. It includes a lot of the information plus some that we talked about tonight, so we would be delighted to have you take a look. Before you dart out, please, we've got a whole couple of plates, maybe 3 plates of cookies over there and a bunch of water, so grab those before you leave. Mayor Williams, would you like to say a word?
I just want to thank all of you for coming and being part of this. It's very important to us, whether you're not for it or you are for it, to have your voice heard. It's something that's near and dear, and I will tell you, I do support it. I believe that I was around since '71. I remember when there was nothing downtown. I was on the council in the early '90s, and there was still nothing downtown until that arena happened. And the whole downtown, I believe, has come about because of the Suns. And I have visited other countries and watched the Suns playing on their TVs. It has given us a presence around the world that would have cost us millions to try to have a campaign like that. I think they give to the community in so many different ways, whether it's Greenway High School or Cactus Park getting a whole new basketball arena, or other schools where they go in and put in a computer lab, upgrade it so the kids have a place to go learn and participate in an organized, healthy fashion where they don't have any other opportunities to do that. They give millions to this community. And I want to thank them for their service to this community, for all you do, and for participating, because we've kind of thrown you to the lions at a couple of these meetings. And I want to thank you very much, and for staff. You put a lot of work and time into that. Janine, you do a wonderful job. But again, thank all of you for taking the time to come and express your feelings. You're very important. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. I just want to reiterate that. Your input is critically important, and we thank all of you who contributed tonight. The next public meeting, by the end of this week, we'll have done 5 of these. Tomorrow is the next one, Wednesday, January 9th at the South Mountain Community Center, 212 East Alta Vista in Phoenix. Another place you can go for information, or you can send your friends if they would like to know more, is Phoenix.gov/arena. You can also provide further comment there. Council will take this matter up, or at least as anticipated to, on its regular meeting on January 23rd at 2:30 p.m. Thanks again, everybody, for being here. Good night. Have a safe drive home.